video. Last step of the writing process. So, like I said on the last one, I went ahead and finished the rest of the body paragraphs so you didn't have to watch me, type for an hour. I have noted on here a couple of things I want to talk about though. And let's see, let me zoom out here so you can pause and read the screen if you'd like. Close enough. There we go. Come on, you gotta get it right. Smidge more. There we go. So there are all the body paragraphs if you want to pause and zoom in and read that. But to point out, so I've highlighted here some of my transitions because if you want to go over here to the rubric and it says uses transitions effectively to connect ideas within and across paragraphs. That's what I've done with these, oops, wrong one, with these different marks. So between paragraphs, we're going to write the introduction here in a second. So this would actually be the second paragraph. I've put in this transition to begin. So that's letting my reader know, okay, take a deep breath. I'm about to begin the actual information after the introduction paragraph. And then I have, like, as young children, students begin taking PE classes. As they get older, and at that point, so each of these is walking my reader through different steps through what is a major detail and a minor detail. Because if I'm starting off with young children here, then have a couple lines about that, but then switch to as they get older, now it's clear that I'm done talking about young children, that now I'm talking about them getting older. And when I say at that point, so I'm saying this is still the same thing. They are still the same age. I have not moved on to other information. And then here I signal with a however. And so now we know that I've switched focus. I've switched to the other side and arguing against them. And this also, I want to make note right here. This is where I do that, what it says on the rubric of effectively addresses counterclaims and counter evidence, effectively introduces claims, acknowledges and distinguishes the claim from alternate or opposing claims. So on the essay here, I say the students who are still required to take the class complain that PE is boring with only basic sports like basketball and volleyball. So I have very clearly stated a specific example from the, quote unquote, other side. And then I have shown that very clearly I am arguing in the opposite direction, and I support that argument with a minor detail. So I've said specifically what they think, and then what I think and why I think that. That's the approach you want to take to those counterclaims. If you have enough counterclaim to make a whole paragraph out of it, fantastic. If not, you just have to have at least one in there. And as long as it's a good one, it's going to check that box and you're good to go. And then words like therefore and in conclusion and in summary and thus and as a result, those tend to signal closings of paragraph. So when I have switched here, my reader knows, okay, they're wrapping it up. And so with this last sentence, I said, therefore, while having fun with exercise makes PE classes more enjoyable, even boring PE classes can still help students. And then I switch by saying this help includes life skills. So what I'm doing is making a connection, a transition between these two paragraphs, because this one ended talking about help and this one is starting by talking about help. So that's what they mean when they say it transitions between paragraphs. Then again, I'm introducing for one, secondly, furthermore, thus, however, for example, many, here, as a result. And then I have signaled that my most important point is in this last body paragraph. So I'm switching between those ideas as well. So I just wanted to point that out, show you what it looks like in action, because these phrases weren't on the outline version that I had done from the other videos that's here. where I had the sentences I wanted to say, but I hadn't put in the actual transitions yet. So from this rough draft, one of the things that makes a rough draft different from a final draft is that you go in and polish it with stuff like this. Throw in these couple of words so that you can check that box for logical flow. Okay, so I have all my body paragraphs. One thing I want to point out, if you look down here in the bottom, so far my word count is at 498 words. When you write the writing SOL, I don't know if they still put it on the actual screen, but it used to be anyway, that it would say write between 300 and 600 words. So if you see that all of this, which I know looks like a lot, but is really just 3 majors, 3 minors, topics and its conclusion. That's only hitting close to 500. So I still have 100 words to work with for my introduction and conclusion. If you go a little bit over, they're not going to care. Really, it's don't go under, because probably just one paragraph is about 300. Let's see. That's 170. So if I had just done those two, if that was my entire essay, including introduction and conclusion, that would be at 300. That's not going to get a good score, because there's no way that you can, fully develop an idea in that much space. Okay, so now we have finished the body paragraphs. I know what I'm going to talk about. I know what points have gone here, what my specific details are. Now I'm going to go back and write the introduction paragraph. And I'll type it on here briefly so that you can see what I'm saying here. Wait until the end to write the introduction and conclusion, because you cannot include the same details from the essay in the introduction. So let's say that I wanted to talk about PE playing, dodgeball and hopscotch. And if I started with my introduction and I put dodgeball and hopscotch, now I can't use it down here. And that example is better down here than it is in the introduction. So wait until the end. Don't try to start at the introduction. At this point, you've already done your pre-writing, you've already done your rough drafting. You know what you want to say in the body paragraphs. So start with what you know. They don't, when they grade it, they don't see what order you wrote things in. They don't see what your rough draft looked like. So it's just my advice, don't try to write the introduction first. But okay, let me erase this. And so my first paragraph for my introduction, still in red. Let's look at the rubric here. So it says for the introduction, it has a clear thesis stating position or side. So got to have a good thesis statement, which I already have. Focus on appropriate audience, and has an overall effective introduction. If you notice, those are really broad. Aside from the thesis statement, that's a pretty broad statement about introduction, meaning they're not expecting Shakespeare here. To be an effective introduction, this is going back to that introduction handout that I gave you guys that says, like, start with a hook or start with a quote or whatever. Start with something that is eye-catching. I tend to go for the hook. So I'm going to start by saying, I'm so out of shape. I'm out of breath from walking a mile. And this is going straight into, my reader is expecting this to be an argument essay, and I'm talking about people, I have people talking here and complaining about exercising. That's going to get attention. That's going to get a hook. So then I start transitioning to my actual point. Many adults say phrases like this anytime they have to do physical labor, physical activities. As a country, we are largely out of shape and don't get enough exercise. However, things were different when we were younger and took physical education classes every day. If these classes carried out later grades, nope, later grade ranges, I'll just go to high school. If these classes had carried through high school, things were different when we were in, so I'm going to make this elementary school. Notice that I didn't have a rough draft of the introduction. It's just a couple of sentences. I don't need to plan that out and make an outline and make sure everything looks great. As long as you have your thesis statement, you're good to go for the rest of it. Excuse me. So if these classes had carried through high school, maybe adults would be less quick. What's a way of saying less out of shape? About to lose my voice. Okay. Less out of shape would be more fit. More physically fit. Because this is such a problem, comma, then hit the thesis. Students should have to take physical education classes. Turn off, bold, turn off, underline. And there we go. I got myself an introduction paragraph. Hit 567 words. So as you can see, when I told you guys they're expecting a 5-paragraph essay, that's what's going to get you to about 600 words. So now I have, zoom out, have my introduction and 3 body paragraphs. So all that's missing is my conclusion paragraph. Another side note here, make sure that you are hitting the tab key to indent 1/2 inch at the beginning of each paragraph, because that's how you show your reader that you have started a new paragraph. Okay, so now I have to wrap it up with a conclusion. Now, with the argument essays, with a persuasive essay, the conclusion is a little more specific than what they want in the introduction. So it says, takes a step beyond summary. That is going back to what I told you guys about make sure that you're not just restating your topic sentences. Make sure that you're not just saying the thesis statement word for word. So go beyond summary, leave with a strong impression. That sort of mirrors the hook of the introduction. You want to go out with a bang the same way you started with a bang. So leave with that strong impression. And then typically for a persuasive essay, it's going to offer some solution or call to action. For this, it's going to be referring to whatever your topic was. If your topic was that you're trying to get a job, then the call to action would be like, you should hire me. If you're trying to fix the, Americans being out of shape, you're going to offer a solution. So pretty much with this, it's going to be go back to whatever the original topic was and say what we should do. So based on whatever you thought from your writing, what should we do? And so as a result, developing good diet and exercise habits throughout the school year sets students to healthier and happier lives. In conclusion, because you still need that transition here to signal, hey, I'm connecting my ideas here. And at this point, you're connecting all of it. In conclusion, I often find that it works to kind of throw back to what your introduction was. So while many adults complain about being out of shape when exercising. Conclusion, this doesn't have to be a common problem. Doesn't have to be. To help fix it, we should offer, no, we should require schools to teach PE classes from kindergarten through 12th grade. If we do that, more adults would be saying, let's go for a run. Rather than change that so I can end on the quotation. If we do that, instead of gasping for breath, more adults would be saying, let's go for a run. 624. So going 24 words over, they're not going to care. But I wrapped it up, signaled what I was doing, went out with a bang, another quotation here, or someone speaking, and said exactly what the call to action should be, exactly what the solution should be. So then if we go back through, check everything. Have a clear thesis. Yep. Focus on an appropriate audience. That is, I'm writing professionally. I say students instead of kids. I used as many big words as I could. Have an effective introduction. Got that hook in there. I have a logical organizational plan, and my evidence and reasons are organized logically. My ideas are unified, meaning I don't ever go off topic. I have a consistent point of view. So that means I'm not switching to I think or I say or you should do that. I maintain a neutral third person. They, them, he, she, just talking about other people. Use my transitions, did my counterclaims, gave specific examples, used my details to clarify what I was saying, show how my evidence supports the topic sentence, provide justification, did my strong conclusion, had a good flow with sentence variety, had subordinating conjunctions, put in modifiers, used big words, made sure that I seemed confident in my tone, but still, where it says evidence of writer's voice, it means you don't sound like a robot, that they can still read it as if it was someone speaking instead of just words on a piece of paper. So there you go. That's what it looks like to meet all the little check boxes here and have that full essay. Out. I can get it all a little less soon. Come on, let me. Oh no, I don't even know what that is. There. Okay. So now you can pause, zoom in, read the whole thing if you want to. That's what it looks like. I went through the process. I came up with my ideas. I organized those ideas. You saw me cutting out a whole lot of them. You saw me being like, ooh, I don't like that as I was writing it. Some of them I ended up changing it 3 times before I finally got it to the way that I want. And that's fine. It doesn't make you a bad writer to change your words. It makes you a bad writer if you refuse to change your words. Go into it knowing that up until you hit the submit button, it's not perfect. It needs more work. Don't hit submit until you think, yes, that is absolute the best I can get it. I know I'm checking all those boxes. I know I've got everything that I need. I'm good to go. With a reminder, put my disclaimer here again on the end, that I just wrote a hopefully 600 level paper. This is 600 level. If you're reading this and you're watching the video and thinking, oh my gosh, I could never come up with that many ideas, or I'm going to forget what some of those transition words are, that's fine. If I cut out one of the major details from each of these paragraphs, that's probably still passing. They're not expecting everyone to get a perfect score. So as long as you can get a 400, that's passing. That's good enough. Don't stress out and let this be intimidating and think that because you can't remember to put in all these transition words that you're going to fail the test, because the transition words were, where to go? One box. That's one box on this whole thing. Zoom out for this. Out of all those boxes, one little box is not going to make that big of a difference. So don't freak out. Do the best that you can do, but just keep in mind that the writing process is there for a reason, and that the biggest chance you can get for success is if you follow it, if you come up with the ideas, and most importantly, if you take your time. Don't get overwhelmed. Don't think, oh, it's been an hour. I don't know. The combination of these videos is probably at least an hour, and I cut out the video of me writing these 2 paragraphs. So, me as a professional English teacher took over an hour to go through this process. It's fine. It should take you time. If it is taking you a lot of time, you're probably doing it right. So, that concludes how to write the essay for the SOL test. Let me know if you have any questions.